Divi, there are a few questions in chat regarding the captions.
Yes, I see it. And for me on my computer, maybe other panelists can chime in. I will message you privately, but there is a live transcript closed captioning button on the bottom right. Folks should see it if they want to access closed captioning. And then you can just click it and press show subtitle, and that should show you the closed captioning. Also, I think we discussed enabling the chat in the beginning for participants. Rochelle, I wonder if that's on your end, if it's possible to allow attendees to also chat with us, or if that's not possible on webinar.
Yeah, I think in our practice session, it was possible.
Yeah, and I'm messaging people through the Q&A because chat's not enabled, but if it's possible to get that enabled, that would be great.
On my end, it says enabled.
Oh, yes.
Says attendee can chat with everyone.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, I see other people able to chat. Thanks, Ryan. So if you have any more urgent questions or anything, feel free to put it in the chat, because we're probably going to see it sooner than in the Q&A section. If you have any questions at any point in the presentation, you can put them there, but if you have something urgent you need to alarm us of, for example, we can't hear anything, or I don't know, anything of that nature, putting in that general chat will be helpful. Also, maybe if people can let me know, are you able to access the live transcript subtitles? For those, if people could type in the chat and let me know if you can see it or not see it. It's like a CC button in this like gray box. Yay, awesome. Thanks so much, everyone.
Hello all. Thanks for waiting with us, and welcome to SCM's fundraiser for Indigenous Solidarity and the Wet'suwet'en Legal Fund. Thank you all so much for coming and showing your support for this cause. Tonight, I'll be your host. My name is Dunk Urquhart. I am the SCM coordinator for the University of Toronto, editor and co-host of the Spirits Rising podcast, and a member of the Blackfoot Peoples. I would like to highlight some of the wonderful people that helped organize our fundraiser. This event could not have been possible without the dedicated work of SCM General Secretary Divi, SCM members Esther and Johannes, and of course our wonderful panelists, performers, speakers, and volunteers. We have some lovely volunteers who are behind the scenes today moderating the chat and the stream, so please feel free to use the chat as needed. Later on, we'll be having a Q&A, so that's where we'll be having the questions put in from there. And yeah, thank you. So our schedule for the night was informed by the notion of celebrating Indigenous excellence in promoting Indigenous solidarity. So we will be highlighting this with performances throughout the evening. The first of which is from Sarah Lewis, an Ojibwe and Cree spoken word artist from Curve Lake Nation. Sarah is the first poet laureate of Nagajinnawong, or Peterborough, Ontario. So without further ado, we present Sarah Lewis.
Anin, thank you, Miigwech. Very grateful to be here. I've been wanting to be a part of some fundraisers or even like support in some way for Wet'suwet'en. So I'm done work and I have the time, and this opportunity came up, and I was so grateful and honored to be able to be a part of it. So this poem I'm going to share, it's called More Than a Poem, and I think it really highlights why I write poetry, why I teach it, and that as an Indigenous person writing and using my voice saved my life, and that it is more than poetry. It's more than a few words or stanzas on a piece of paper. Speaking your truth and telling your story and fighting and speaking for what you believe in is activism, is empowering, and I try to teach that to the youth, and I try to advocate for that. So anyways, without further ado, this poem is called More Than a Poem, and it's actually my most recent one. I just wrote this a few weeks ago. My mind is an arena of ancient lost scrolls my ancestors hid from calloused cross-building hands. Teachings, truth, land, and culture wrap around teeth and spit into this mic, fighting to be heard. Oral tradition and storytelling is embedded in my blood they called savage. And I live up to the title, ravaging these stanzas, all a part of creator's plans. I'ma make her proud. Know that I'm not known to sugarcoat the truth, rhyme genocide with something pretty and fruitful to make your ears dance or sweeten your palate. I call it like it is. They put pesticides on these plants, killing off what was unfamiliar was their plan B, sprayed onto our family trees. Because you see, my grandfather's skin intimidated map makers, poets, encyclopedists, and historians could not compete with the rich traditions, knowledge, stories, and histories carried in his creases. Jealous of his relationship to the land, would never put a hand on or flagpole in her, and for that she trusted him with her children. Us, dear wise one, my grandmother says, filling the space between third eye and heart chakra, you are descendant of moss, fungi, bug, bark, and water, so stand up for your family. Stand up for the future generations. Your voice is medicine, antibiotic for viral colonialism, the pandemic that no one talks about. You're the water after the drought, after we've been sucked dry of our resources, of our opinion, our autonomy. Quench the thirst of the young minds. And so I baptize them with my tears. Plead they stand up to these greedy, needy, stealing of unceded territory terrorists. Their voices, their raised fists are gifts. This is more than hand to pen, pen to paper. This is more than a collection of poems or 15 minutes of fame. These words connect to resurrect the silenced ones. Expose the violent acts on mother tongues. The mouths held shut by wooden planks 6 feet under. They're the fire that will burn these planks to embers. They speak through me, a revelry of reunited elders stand behind you and me. The irony is that these savages were never the ones with a finger on the trigger, but always behind the barrel of the machine that bites. My poetry is a peaceful protest. All right, I don't need guns to blow you away, so please don't shoot the messenger. I'm a sweetgrass sage smut healer in the flesh, decolonizing the systems that hold you and I hostage. I burn their standardized tests I was never able to pass. Laugh at the man who calls himself a philanthropist. I immerse myself in your system and become his therapist. Tell him he has mommy issues, toxic relationship with Mother Earth, but she's not taking a shit no more. She knows her worth. You want to give back to the people? Be a big man? Here, read this poem I wrote and give them back their land. This is activism. This is speaking silence into riot. The stories are braided in my hair. Poetry is my meditation. My prayer can be found after my father's death, throughout my addiction, at a Wet'suwet'en protest, the moment I fall in love with life again. Because when a crack pipe becomes a pen, a eulogy becomes a poem. This is more than a few words that rhyme. This is a lifeline. So will you share your gift? Future you is asking, will you pick up when it calls you? So yeah, thank you. This is my one poem, more than a poem. Yeah, I think I'll just share this poem. I'm not too sure what the layout or what the rest of the night is supposed to look like, but I think I was just to share one, I believe. Share another? Okay. Okay, yeah, for sure. So this one, I like this one. This one is, it reminds me of all the powerful Indigenous women in my life, and that's kind of who I wrote it for, in honor of, and it's online. I did a poem with CBC, and it's on YouTube, but yeah, I'll share this one with everyone. It's called Warrior Cry. Just going to find it because okay, sorry. Okay. I'm the warrior cry that penetrates, swings, slings through your House of Commons window. Not uncommon in my bloodline, though I'm the high priestess, the empress, grabbing glass ceilings on my way down, turned into a floor, turned to powwow grounds. I dance and stomp on top of shreds of the 1763 Royal Proclamation buried beneath my feet. Jingle dresses and fancy shawls sweep the red-crusted floor. I crow, hop, stop, and point to every door, evicted of opportunity, every timeline, every generation eradicated. Here is where I stop and pray. I see my own fractured lineage covered up with a Band-Aid branded reconciliation. My moccasins reveal the mess you made, crammed onto reservations. Crucifixes and crying eyes disguised as a friendly Thanksgiving dinner get-together. A dinner reservation we did not make, had no choice in the matter of, painted as a special seat by the door and told to leave before the main course. Leftovers presented on a gold-plated platter and advertised as the special. Starved of culture, freedom, love, our children, our world, how special. But my ancestors, unshackle us daily, have prayed for us for millennia. I am your Notre Dame turned to flames, the fire starter that won't get out of the house that shamed her, a ceremonial smoke medicine flavor, healing yet spicy. A lyrical physicist transcending truth through time and spaces that I now take up. A felony if you dare touch me, burn hands will remind you that my blood still boils. And land acknowledgements aren't going to fix that. Because acknowledgements without change is like sorry without action. Assaulting the land and bodies of water is an attack on Indigenous women's bodies and communities. This is forced entry to our life givers. Indigenous women nurture our future, feed our babies with ceremony. Babies that grow because of places like Pigeon Lake. The same place where cottagers protest our wild rice monomen for being too thick along the shores for their water skis to get through, of course. The irony of their anger, having something taken away, as though their water sports trump our livelihood and survival. You scream bloody murder and I scream privilege. Tired of being labeled radical because I want clean drinking water for our communities, for Indigenous women and men to be alive, to thrive, yet we're devalued by the blue lives that promise us safety. Tired of being punished because of pigment. But I digress. Indigenous women, the backbone of the body we've abused, holding us together in this rusted, gated, concrete-fused skeleton, they always call me back to my purpose, my power, my body that's been displaced, my home. I forever owe debt to my grandmothers, mothers, aunties, sisters, and friends. So this one's for you, Miigwech. Thanks, everybody. I'm so happy to be here, and I look forward to all the other performers and stuff, and artists. Miigwech.
Miigwech, Sarah. Yeah, as you have said in your wonderful words, it is more than poetry, it is peaceful protest. The line, "Your voice is medicine," is still ringing in my ears from the first poem you presented. Just wonderful, absolutely wonderful work. And, you know, Peterborough is absolutely lucky to have you as their first poet laureate. Up next in our evening, we have some words from Slato, the Get 'em Checkpoint spokesperson, who will be speaking on the work that is being done on the front lines and the firsthand experiences of the Solidarity Line. Afterwards, we'll be having a Q&A period for Slato. So if you have any questions, please feel free to write them down in the chat, and they will be picked up by our wonderful volunteers. So go ahead and throw them in the chat, and I present to you Slato.
Hari Slato Sydney, Gidim Den Hesley with Sotanes Den. Thank you so much, Sarah, for your poems. My sister's a poet, and so I really appreciate that art form, and your words are so powerful, and they were so beautiful. So thank you so much for sharing. I feel like it's difficult to go after you. I wish that I had such powerful words. So thank you so much. And thank you so much to the hosts and the organizers and the other performers as well. I look forward to hearing them as well. And a shout out to my brother Logan, who should be on a little later on. So I just want to give you a little bit of history and background about what's going on here in Wet'suwet'en territory. I hold the name Slato, which is in the Cassia House, Grizzly Bear House, the Gidim Den clan. We come from a hereditary system, an ancient governance system that has been in place for thousands of years on our territory. We have 22,000 square kilometers of unceded, undefeated, untreated territories that we still hold title to, and that we still occupy, and that we still utilize. And all of that is governed by our hereditary governance system, which is an ancient system of our houses and clans that come together to make decisions and to protect our territories. And something that the Canadian government tried to eradicate with the Indian Act, with the potlatch ban, with many policies that were put in place. You know, Sarah had talked about this in one of her pieces around the reservations and how they tried to take us off of the land and put us on reserves in order to kill our system of being on the land, to eradicate our strength and our warriors in order to protect the land, and put all of these systems of genocide in place in order to steal our resources from our territories and destroy them. But we managed to save our hereditary system. Our hereditary chiefs, some of their names are thousands of years old, that we don't even know the, origin of some of them. that they're that old and that we've been able to hang on to that. And so I think this is something that's really important to recognize, because we hold that very dear. We know that that's what makes us who we are as Wet'suwet'en people, as Indigenous people, is this connection to our ancestors, this connection to our territories, and how we need to govern that. So I want to just make that distinction right at the beginning, because a lot of nations are governed by band councils now, and that was a purposeful move by the Canadian government to impose these systems of governance and of government that was an arm of the Indian Act that was put in place to destroy us. And so those are elected systems. And in our communities, those are systems that get reelected every couple of years, whereas our hereditary chiefs are in place for life. They are groomed by our elders, by our matriarchs, and they're put in place to make the kinds of decisions on our territory for all of the future generations. And many nations are governed by band councils because colonization was really great at destroying our traditional governance systems, and that's the only, the only thing that some communities have. But for us, we still have our hereditary system, and we are fighting for the life of it. We are fighting to keep it as healthy and as vibrant and as alive as we are to keep our water and our land and our air and our animals and our non-human relatives alive and well and healthy, and to keep our people alive and well and healthy. And so this system was put in place thousands of years ago, and it continues to govern what's happening on Wet'suwet'en territory. So when, about 10 years ago, there were 9 proposed pipelines to go through Wet'suwet'en territory, oil pipelines and fracked gas pipelines. And Coastal GasLink was one of those pipelines that was proposed. Our clan system got together over a number of years and had meetings and looked at all of the information, all of the risks, all of the benefits, all of the things that might impact us, good or bad. And we came together with our clans according to our decision-making processes. And we talked about all of these things through over many, many meetings over years. And we all decided as a nation that we would be opposing any pipelines through our territory. All of the pipelines that proposed to go through our territory, and CGL is just one, but it's the one that's pushing the hardest right now, is a 670-kilometer fracked gas pipeline that would pump fracked gas from northeastern so-called British Columbia to Kitimat, to the coast, which would then be liquefied in a $40 billion project at the liquefaction plant, LNG Canada, and shipped off to Asian markets. And so we decided that we were going to oppose this project. And we got up in our feast hall in our bahlats, and we made that decision public according to our governance hall. Our governance hall is like Parliament. That's where we make our laws, where we ratify our laws, where our laws are upheld out on the land because they were done publicly in front of all of our people, all of our clans and our nation. And it's so important that we made that decision because every single pipeline, including Coastal GasLink, plans to drill under the Wet'suwet'en, under our sacred headwaters, a river that's so pristine that you can drink right out of the water, right out of the river. You could go down to the river and take a cup or take your hand, drink the water out of it. And that's the water that we drink every single day at Gidimt'en Checkpoint, every single day at the Unistoten Healing Center, that my children, my 3 children drink that. They are part of Wet'suwet'en because they live with her every single day of their lives. And so it was too critical for us to be able to risk any damage to the Wet'suwet'en. It's also one of our major salmon spawning areas where all of the salmon, all of the coastal salmon, they come up and they spawn in the Wet'suwet'en, in Wet'suwet'en, in the headwaters. And we can't risk that being destroyed. Right now is spring in the territories. And right now is a critical time that we need to be paying attention to what's going on here, because The Coastal GasLink project plans to drill under the Witzinkoa probably within the next month and a half to 2 months. And this is something that absolutely cannot happen. Right now, it's runoff season. The waters are flowing. Everything's running off into the river. They're digging their holes. They just got another permit that they're cutting down all of the old growth down to the river, which is going to create more devastation and runoff from all of the work that they're doing up on the hill at the drill pad site that's on a steep incline all the way to the river. And all of those old growth trees and all of the roots, they're helping to alleviate the runoff into the river of all of their destruction at the top of the hill. And they're cutting those down so that they can put up an extra fence to prevent Wet'suwet'en people from entering that part of their territory. This isn't the first time, this isn't the first time that we've considered this problem. In, as many of you might know, in the fall, there was a 56-day blockade and occupation called Coyote Camp, where we saw that people were fed up and were not going to let this happen. And so there was an occupation there that lasted for months and occupied the drill pad site where they plan to drill under the river. And unfortunately, that resulted in extreme violence against Wet'suwet'en people and other Indigenous land defenders, and other land defenders invited guests on our territory. And that marked the third violent raid on Wet'suwet'en territory in 3 years. There have been multiple people, dozens of people arrested. I think the last time I counted, there was like over 70 arrests since this conflict began. And they're not just, I know that some people have been out there. We've had a lot of CPT support with legal observing, and this last round, legal observers were arrested, were imprisoned for several days during that raid, and the violence seems to continue to increase, which is very disturbing and and frightening, to be honest. I think that over the years they've become more aggressive. They cited in government documents that we were talking about war, that's why that was their justification for using so much force, for using police dogs, for pointing semi-automatic weapons at our heads while they were violently arresting us and removing us from our own territory. And this is something that, it is war. We are in a war for our lives. We are at war for our water. And that's not to say that we are initiating war. This war has been going on against Indigenous people since contact. This has never stopped, whether it was the residential schools, whether it was the 60s scoop, the fact that our children are still being taken away, at rates higher than children who went to residential school, the fact that our women are going missing and being murdered with no accountability and no consequences. We have been at war this whole time, and now it's getting to a point where our territories and our drinking water and the life that sustains our salmon, our most precious resource, that is being threatened, and we just can't stand by and let that happen. We can't stand by and watch it, because then what would our ancestors think of us? What are our future generations going to think of us if they said, why didn't you do anything? Why didn't you stand up and fight? And why didn't you have a voice? And we know that the only reason we're here is because our ancestors did those things for us. They went to war to protect our territories, to protect their people. They sacrificed everything. They risked their lives. They risked jail time. They did all of those things because they were following our law, because our law is what we know sustains our people and our land, and that we can't have one without the other. We depend on our territories so critically. And so it's really important now that we know and understand what's going on in Wet'suwet'en territory, and know that we will never give up. You know, even if they do drill under the river, which absolutely cannot happen, we will still never give up. You know, that's not the end point for us, because when we stop upholding our laws, the decisions that were made in our feast hall, the decisions that were made by our highest chiefs and all of our clan members, when we stop following that law, we lose ourselves. We start losing the fight. You know, when we decide and we give up and say that we're just going to go along with capitalism, with colonialism, with patriarchy, when we give up who we are, we've already lost, and we've lost for every single generation that comes after us. And so we are determined to stand up and fight for what we know is right. We are asking for people to come and join us on the INTA, to come and support us, to follow along at intaaccess.com for ways to support. We have a number of different things that are going on, but right now in the territories, one of the biggest issues that we're having is that the police are coming in to Gidimt'en checkpoint and coming onto the territory several times a day. And so I think there was, if I recall correctly, in April, there were 94 or 97 visits by the RCMP into Gidimt'en checkpoint, invasions, with over 280 boots on the ground. Different officers that had come in and violated our home site. And in March, or sorry, the next month, there was, I think that was in April. And the next month there was, I think 90 less visits, but there was over 300 RCMP officers. We just got word yesterday that there are double the amount of RCMP officers in the territory now than there were last week. And so they're planning something. They're getting ready. They're increasing their surveillance, their harassment. They're increasing their trespassing on our territory. Being on the territory right now, it just feels like a war zone, and it has felt like a war zone for years. And every time that we see extreme violence happening to our people, happening to Indigenous people, you know, it's just layer upon layer of that genocide. That they're really trying to remove us. They're really trying to get us to get off of our territory. They've created, you know, there's 27 people that have conditions to not enter our territory. I cannot even go on my own territory unless I am doing a cultural practice or hunting or trapping. I can't go stand on my territory. I can't go walk on my territory in certain parts because the police say so, because the judges, these colonial courts say so. And so we're still fighting those 27 charges from November, from the raids at Coyote Camp and at Gidimt'en checkpoint. But the police are coming in every single day. They're saying, giving all kinds of excuses, that they're investigating, that they are that they're there to make sure that I don't violate my conditions. You know, it doesn't take 10 officers to come in sometimes every 2 hours to ensure that I am engaging in a cultural practice on my own land. Otherwise, I will be thrown in jail. It's absolutely unlawful according to our law. It's trespass. They're waking our elders up at 4 o'clock in the morning sometimes, who live at Gidimt'en checkpoint. And we need people to know what's happening. We need legal observers. And we know that there are some coming, and we need people to be watching. We need people to get mobilized and get ready to respond, because this is far from over, and it's going to increase, and it's going to get worse before it gets better. And that's just the reality of what's happening on the front line right now in Wet'suwet'en territory. And it's not in the mainstream media. It's not in the news, because they have been saturated with the violence that happens to us, the violence that has been happening to us year after year. It doesn't even concern them anymore to come with a camera and to capture that, because it's, you know, they just think, oh, it's just the Wet'suwet'en again. They're still protesting. Well, we're not protesters. We're human beings following our law. We're Indigenous people following our law, following our way of life. And that is being criminalized, and that is being repressed by the state, by the RCMP, by their special group of CGL mercenaries that constantly attack us and violate our privacy, violate our security as Indigenous people on our own lands. So please follow along, visit our website. Thank you so much for having me for this update, and to all of the other, amazing people that are on this call that are going to share with you some really beautiful things. Awitsa, Masai.
Thank you, Slato. Really appreciate you speaking out against the violence and the colonial actions that are being taken in our lands. And yeah, just really appreciated what you were saying, especially in reference to, the ongoing colonial history that we're facing as Indigenous peoples, mentioning the 60s scoop. My father was a part of that. So, it really does hit home, and, likening the issues that we're facing and the way that we have to engage with it as a war, I think is spot on and accurate, because it isn't necessarily a war that we have chosen. It was one that started in 1400s with the landing of ships, and it's still ongoing, and it doesn't even happen just on our our own lands. It's even in Toronto. I've been harassed by police because I look too Indigenous to be in a nice neighborhood. It's a really ongoing battle. So thank you so much for those wonderful words. We do have some questions for you from the chat. Firstly, talking about this ongoing battle, this ongoing struggle, and having to actively participate in this in all times. How do you maintain hope and the ability to fight for the Wedzin while facing so much opposition? And how do you maybe deal with the frustrations that you may have, or if you have any, over the lack of care that people have towards supporting Indigenous sovereignty?
Well, that's a good question. And I live on the territory. I live about, I live a little ways away from the pipeline route, but I get to enjoy and get to feel the power of our territory and the, and the peace of the territory, and the strength and everything that comes from it with my family. I have 3 children, and we've been living out on the territory since 2014. We built a cabin in 2012, and that's what sustains me. And so I have that keeps me going. Living on the land, living with the land, it keeps us powerful, it keeps us strong, and that's what we're fighting for, and to do that with my children, and to have all of the support of the supporters that come out, like we feel like family, like our family is just so big because people come and they fall in love with the Yinta, and they get to experience what it feels like, to be loved by her and to be loved by the Wedzin. And that is a beautiful thing to me. And it really inspires me to keep going and to keep fighting. And it replenishes me spiritually, mentally, physically, to be in connection with our land that way.
So obviously we have some people here who are wanting to support the solidarity line, wanting to support sovereignty, but I think there's maybe a lack of direction sometimes on where to go. So one of the questions that we had in the space was, do people need any sort of training in order to be at camp as a legal observer, as you mentioned, or provide any other form of support?
I mean, it's really helpful for people to come to the Yinta with like baseline bush skills. Like, I know in some other communities, people were doing, workshops of like how to cut kindling and how to start a fire and how to, be outside and the cold weather or in the bug season or whatever. And I think it's really helpful for people to come as self-sustainable as they can be, and to be able to contribute in other ways. We do have people that are willing to do legal observer training. We can also, train people on site. And that's really important. We've had such an amazing support in the past with legal observers being on the ground, and it makes a huge difference for our safety just to know that people are there to watch, that people are there to record. And it doesn't always mean that the cops aren't going to come in and harass, and people should know that the situation as it is right now and how much harassment and intimidation is happening. But it makes us safer on the ground. So we really encourage it.
So for those who would want to be legal observers or to be a part of the Solidarity line, what would you say is a good amount of time for people to come? How long should people devote to this out of their lives?
I mean, people that are coming from far away, also with, even though all the restrictions are lifted, we still have COVID protocols in place at camp, and to keep our community safe. We are asking people to come for a 2-week period. Obviously, some people can't come that long, so we do make some exceptions, but especially for people traveling far away, it makes sense for at least 2 weeks to get oriented and get the swing of things and get integrated into camp. That's what we're hoping for.
And maybe for those who are potentially unable to do so, specifically, one of our questions is for coming from young settlers in this space. How can we urge young people or our friends who are worried about their own survival and maintaining work under capitalism to become more mobilized and to act in support of Indigenous sovereignty and land back?
I mean, I think it's having conversations with your friends, with your family, and starting off in that space, and really like taking the initiative to become educated about the history of particularly the land that you're on. I think it's so important to wherever you are in the world, and anywhere in so-called Canada, you are on Indigenous land, stolen Indigenous land. And so you need to find out about what the history is there and take the time and to ask questions to other people that might be informed. I would say, it's hard for Indigenous people, for us to constantly be educating other people about our history and our position. It's really something that other settlers should be doing for each other, to be helping them learn and going through that process together. And then I think that supporting whatever actions are happening in whatever ways that Indigenous people are asking for support. And that should always happen in the territory that you're in, first and foremost. And then, if there's capacity, then we obviously appreciate any kind of support. And we have a whole list of ways to support us and Get 'em Done Checkpoint in our struggle for sovereignty and our struggle against this pipeline on our website. So you can visit there, and that's also where you can go to apply to come to camp.
Yeah, I think it's very important to highlight the when you're talking about asking Indigenous people to be explaining Indigenous issues all the time and such, it's a high amount of emotional labor that requires, especially for those who are so far removed from it or see it so far removed from themselves. So that is really important to note about. Like, self-education is so vital. But of course, often enough, I think we feel that we need to be getting more people to pay attention, right? But one of our other questions is kind of more about asking in that attention, and how can we get more people to pay attention to the need to protect the sacred river if we're low on financial resources? If we don't have that financial resource to bank on, how should we be getting the word out?
We're actually going to be working on some outreach in the next little while here, looking at grassroots groups to organize against the upcoming drilling that's happening, the imminent drilling that's happening, to relay to people and share out our message about, share out all our updates, share out the urgency of the matter, and the fact that we need people to get mobilized wherever you are. So some people are going to be able to come to the INTA, some people aren't. People have to work, but get involved in helping to organize whatever's happening in your territory. And if nothing's happening, in wherever you live, or whatever nation you're from, talk to people about what could happen. How do we respond when there's severe violence and repression that's happening in Wet'suwet'en territory? What can you do? And we're going to be putting out some information and meetings, huge call-out meetings around what we can do specifically. One of the things is the divestment campaign that we've been working on, but we also need to shift gears a little bit and look at the urgency of what's happening on the ground and start taking action to stop the drilling from happening. And then also start getting prepared for when police bring more violence to our communities, and what's going to happen with 20 more police officers in our territories that just showed up.
All right, thank you so much, Slato. That was all the questions that we had for you. So thank you so much again for taking your time to answer these questions and to provide us with so much information. In the chat here, we have intaaccess.com has a great amount of resources and information for people. And of course, also following the Get 'em Checkpoints on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter are all great resources for information as well. Yeah, thank you again, Slato, so much for taking the time to speak with us today and to answer our questions.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. And thank you again for all of your support, for everybody who's been out, to everybody on the call today, performing and sharing their gifts to support our struggle. We really, really appreciate it. And we couldn't do this without you. So having to say,
Gotcha. So now that we've heard about the issues from Slato and learned more about what's going on in Wet'suwet'en and the Get 'em checkpoints, it's time to think about what we can do to support the Solidarity Line and to ensure our part to ensure that justice tonight. So to lead us in this, we have Johannes, a friend, SCMer, and dedicated event planner.
Thanks so much, Dunk. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to take a few moments to respond to some calls to action. This is an opportunity to do some collective solidarity actions together with other attendees. So firstly, we will be sending a letter to some RBC executives and demanding that they defund the Coastal GasLink pipeline and stop financing fossil fuels. And so if you don't feel your creative juices flowing today, you don't need to worry. There's an excellent emailer tool that I'm going to share in the chat right now. So let me just take a moment. And so all you have to do is this is an emailer that was shared on the INTA Access website, which as Slato was talking about, it's a great site to keep updated with things that are happening on Wet'suwet'en territory. So you just click through on the emailer link in the chat and a web page should show up. And you can just scroll down a bit, put in your name and email address. There's a letter already written for you discussing issues of free, prior, and informed consent, UNDRIP, and RBC's role in financing tar sands development. And if you're feeling particularly creative, go ahead and edit the letter as you'd like. And when it's ready to send, you just tap the add your voice button, and then you'll be done. The first call to action. And so as you're finishing that action up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start talking about our next action, which is just a little social media zap. So if you have Twitter, you can go ahead and open it. The handles for this action are for Twitter, but you can still do it. You can still do a post on another platform if you don't have Twitter. Ideally, you'll want to tag RBC, but we have a little tweet prepared for you that should be able to fit within the character limit. And I will just share that in the chat right now. And again, if you're feeling creative, you can modify it or write your own tweet from scratch. I'll post some hashtags and handles of RBC executives that you can tweet at in the chat as well. And yeah, so again, we're demanding RBC listen to Wet'suwet'en hereditary chiefs and defund the Coastal GasLink pipeline, which is supposed to ship out fracked gas to the coast. It would pump enormous amounts of carbon into our atmosphere and destroy pristine waterways like the Wazinqua on Wet'suwet'en territory. And so we want RBC executives to be aware that we know what they're up to and that it has to stop. And so as you complete those tweets, I'm just going to share with you a link to the Yinta Access website, which tells you about other actions you can take on your own time. And I'm just going to put that in the chat right now. And so I'd encourage you to spend some time learning about what is happening on the Yinta, learn about other actions you can take with your friends and your community to support Wet'suwet'en people protecting their land. And I'll leave you for a few minutes to finish that up. If you're done, feel free to take a break. I think maybe in a minute or so, Dunk will be back to introduce our next performer. So thanks again for taking those actions with us, and we will see you soon.
All right. Thank you again so much, Johannes, for your time and in helping us to support Indigenous land rights. We will be continuing to celebrate Indigenous excellence, firstly by welcoming back to the spotlight Sarah Lewis.
Thank you again, Miigwech. That was very informative, knowledgeable. I'm just floored. I know this has been happening for years, and it's been a while, and life gets busy sometimes. And this was kind of a good reminder. I just really want to get back into this and support in any way I can. I shared on Facebook just now, and I sent them a letter. So I'm really excited. Hopefully going to be creating more work in the future too, specifically on this issue. So I'm going to share a poem or two poems, depending on what you guys think. But this poem, and I'm sorry, I have a toddler and he's yelling in the background if anyone can hear that noise. So hold on 1 second. Okay, sorry about that. Bad timing. I'm at home. It's a really busy house. So this poem I wrote, I'm very like anti-capitalist colonial mindset. So this poem I wrote when I was like in the office, and I had went to the mountains. Actually, I went to BC this year, and I was like, I felt at home as soon as I approached the mountains and I was on the land, and I just bawled my eyes out. And I have family out in so-called British Columbia, and the connection to the land and water that I have is just impeccable. So I wrote this poem in honor of that. So this poem is called Bluebird. I forgot to breathe. I held my breath, waiting for my own approval, made myself sick with grief for a person I missed so dearly. The child in me had forgotten how to play. I see those emails peeking out of my inbox like a big red flag I can't ignore, but I keep going back to the deadlines, the 9 to 5, the bills, the event I sent my regrets to, the angry scheduler that loves to label me procrastinator, a hater. So today, I smile and I wave. Finally took a deep breath and exhaled expectations I'll never meet. I skipped to the garden, middle fingers in air and fate in hands. You see, natural law and self-sufficiency were replaced with an angry accountant. Tells me this way of life isn't adding up, and I agree. He looks confused, the same look I've had until this very moment. I tell him that I'm done with the abuse. I tell him that the spreadsheets and office desks have replaced my mountain view, the meadow I make love in, so they gots to go. When did the newest version of the DSM replace books of poetry and watercolored portraits? I don't have depression. I've been robbed of my sanity, spirituality, creativity. My abuser stole my paintbrush and time and filled my hands with worry and with deadlines and worry and called me successful. Today, rest is considered a luxury if self-care isn't written in policy. From the big wigs who are in charge of the cards at the big table convinces us we are small, that we must deal with the cards we are dealt, but I'm sick of this game, and I call your bluff. Stuck in this rat race when I'm a bird, caged to colonial concepts, but the key to the valley has always been there, is dangling at my window, Bluebird. Shall we fly to the mountains? Fly to the evergreen trees that do not obsess and sweat about a to-do list. All it does is exist, and that is enough. You see, this way of life doesn't make sense to me, Bluebird. I don't trust them. I don't trust this capitalist, colonial, balonial bullshit. They are experts in self-harm. For every tree you cut down is a me you cut down. Your mistake is thinking that we are separate from nature, but honey, the bees are not the only thing that is endangered. You see, only an old-growth forest has that beauty and ability to take my breath away, and in a split second gift it back to me. The leaves, the bark are my therapy, could replace my oxygen mask they gave me from my panic attacks. So tonight I travel with Bluebird. We sing our songs. Here we can simply be. Here anxiety no longer fills the cracks in my teeth. Here my jaw softens and is filled with wild berries, nuts, and poems. This is your reminder to breathe, to rest, to put down your phone, your lists. This is your call to inaction, because the mountains, valleys, and rivers miss you, have been waiting for you. Bluebird misses you and is waiting for you. Thank you. So that's my Bluebird poem. And it's kind of like, it reminds me of why we do this fight. And like, as Indigenous people, it's like that, just as mentioned before, like as Slato was saying, that's our connection to the land is so strong. Like everything is interconnected. And when I went there and I could see like, just like the tourism and like, the, the pipelines and all that's happening there, it made like there was a heavy part in like my stomach just felt heavy and my heart felt heavy, and we have to protect that. We have to nurture that for not only us but the generations that come after us, as we all know. So yeah, that's Mikwesh. Thank you. Should I share one more? I have one. I could share one more poem. It's a little bit of a rageful poem, but I think it's still important. And it's called Uncomfortable. And upon becoming poet laureate, I think a lot of people have this idea of what poetry is. And they think it's like all butterflies and rainbows and stuff. And spoken word poetry is very political. And you often touch on a lot of uncomfortable topics that people don't want to listen or they don't want to hear, because they don't want to address it, or they don't want to think that they're a part of a system where these things are taking place. So anyways, this poem kind of like speaks to that. So it's all encompassing of the many uncomfortable subjects that activists and talk about and highlight. So this poem is called Uncomfortable. Take out your earplugs, take off your fur golden robes and rose-colored glasses, because change never happened in rooms of comfort. Do I make you uncomfortable with my lack of butterfly flower power, whispers in the wind, Shakespearean poetry? My breath is poetry, my body is poetry, my existence is poetry. Instead, I'm the howling hurricane smashing your doors down, demanding you rebuild them and open them up to more people who look like me. Does a headline about a thriving economy interest you more than a pipeline protest? Another water protector arrested and jailed for trying to save you. Imagine that. Poems about white picket fences are prettier than the barbed wire ones my people are used to. Does being faced with the idea that a woman of color could be the face you see in your newsfeed, newspaper articles splashed with brown on white paper make you uncomfortable? Breaking news, this is not news to me. How about when I say the word fuck, and not as a verb or with you, but to express that it fucking hurts to see the world burn, youth yearning for their future that isn't of flames and famine, hungry for your attention. And pardon my language, but mine was taken away. Your actions contradict what you say. Land acknowledgements cannot be traded for extraction permits. Are my words salty? Are they hard to swallow? Would you like a drink of water? Perhaps something sweet to balance out your poor taste in what you protest. I'm tantalized by your rebuttals to justify genocide. It's happened everywhere on every continent, you say, as if that makes it okay, as if the ways of the olden days were best and I can practically see the Confederate flag tattooed across your chest. As if our people don't have rights, as if our land doesn't have rights, as if you have the right to ask me to stand for a red flag that has the blood of my people on it. And I see they've brainwashed you too, and really I feel more sorry for you. But like the sage I burn, I rise to the occasion over your woolly eyes and pray that you never have to see what I've seen. I pray that you become educated on our lives, that you can see that speaking our stories are revolutionary. Resisting and existing in a time when my story wasn't supposed to exist is revolutionary. We've listened to you, we've heard your cries, your white guilt, the epitome of your pity for not me but you, so I'll tell you this. Comfort is the least of my worries. We've been uncomfortable in our own bodies for 500 years, buried not underneath sycamores and pines, but pipelines and Confederate statues. Our eyes burning, uncomfortable from frontline tear gas attacks, still not as painful as not being able to see a future for your own children. So now I think it's your turn to listen. Take a seat. It's time for change. It's time to get uncomfortable. Thank you. Alan, I was like in a rage when I wrote that, but it's needed, as mentioned before. So, yeah, miigwech. I think that's all for sharing. I'm not too sure, Dunk. What's up next? Thanks for all the love, folks. Very happy to be here. Should I share more, or I'm sorry, I just forget the timeline of how long I'm supposed to share for.
That's all right. We can. I think we're actually running a little bit past our timeline.
Okay.
But again, miigwech for your wonderful, wonderful voice. The rage, the discomfort. That's all necessary. Yeah, from one poet to another. Really appreciated that. Yeah, appreciating also the Trent's diploma in the background. I've got mine somewhere here. And the line of the Confederates flags all around is very relevant for anyone who's ever been to Peterborough, Nagajinawang. It's surprisingly a common sight there. So again, miigwech Sarah for your words and voice. It was wonderful. So up next, we have a musical performance and some storytelling by DM La Fortune, aka Mama D. Mama D is a fighter, a champion, an activist, and a believer in guardian angels. Let's give it up for Mama D.
There's a lot of songs have been sung today. Children, I have to say something because I've been doing this for I would be granted my birth record information. I'm an adopted from the 1950s. We're going to start discussing adoption. Okay, adopted aren't planning because it's a please. I'm afraid to be man. Ask God what adoption is. Okay, the reality is the idea that adults have a right to adopt. Sorry, you some kind of education. Otherwise, you can't have your own children that lawyers or some adoption agency will provide someone else's. Adoption is
So sorry, DM. Unfortunately, we're having some audio issues from you, but I believe you got Esther there to help you out.
what's happening. Well, I can just go on the computer. Famous system. Just a second. This is. So how is it now? We were great earlier. What happened? Can you hear me? Are you? No. Okay, so can you hear me now? Can somebody talk to me now?
Yeah, unfortunately, we can't be hearing you properly, but if you can maybe mute yourself on your computer, and then we'll have the sound come through on Esther's, maybe that would be the quickest fix, or I believe you got a microphone there.
I have the built-in microphone. I had this problem before. Fine. So you want to put the microphone over here? Fine, we can. Same AirPods built in. Yeah. Okay. Just come. Okay. Can you hear me now?
That's perfect.
Hello.
Yeah, that's perfect. We can hear you great.
Okay. So you can hear me now. I can somebody indicate, somebody give me a thumb or something. Okay, so there's been a lot of things talked about today, including the children and that. And okay, I've been doing a lot of social justice work for years, I have a workshop called Decolonizing the Heart. I'm a survivor of the adoption experiment, the human engineering experiment called, if we can't have our own baby, we have a reasonable expectation that the state, lawyers, or adoption agencies will provide us with someone else's infant, some woman who doesn't have a choice, who doesn't have the resources to defend herself. Adoption is not an adult right. It's the last thing you do is to remove a child from their place in the river of life. This is a craziness. It's a crazy making. We're 35% of the psych population, 87% of the prison population. Do start listening to adoptees. We're the unfogged adoptees who are not like fawning over adoptive parents because we have this terror that we're going to be sent somewhere away again. It's very deep. Mirroring and being raised in your family is important to your sense of self and your idea that you belong in the world. We are really damaged people. We have a hard time maintaining our passion for things. We tend to overachieve and then move to another field, achieve really well over to. So I needed to address that because having done so much work for other causes, it's time to listen to the voices of adopted adults and stop listening to the adoption industry, adoptive parents. And they're not adopted. They have no place in this conversation. And this is a song. I didn't know what I was going to do, so I decided to do this one. She imagines herself light years ahead, asleep with her memories and gray in her hair. Just another seasick sailor clinging to the side of the bed, and they keep on smiling in that old photograph high on the wall overhead, just like she remembers before they surrender for a few on the steps of the shed. Oh, they're down in the kitchen, their liquored up words spin like needles into her ears. It's okay if the kid hears, it's the neighbors you fear, while her best friend, her dog licks her tears. When the whiskey wears off, he'll still have his pride, and she'll feel guilty for wishing they died. They'll be kissed on the forehead, thank God he's not dead, or leave on the damn bathroom light. Oh, Mama said so, Papa said no, Grandma said come, let's play tea, dear. And stroking her head, she tells the kid, it's gonna be better for you. She's bombarded with curses, commanding she's worthless, and this time she's just gone too far. There's somebody pushing and somebody pulling in a world that assumes there'll be scars. And Mama sits smoking, saying Daddy's just joking, he'll have nothing he'll ever regret. Get closer, what's the problem? Hug your father, be a daughter, and don't you ever forget. Oh, Mama said so, and Papa said no, and Grandma said come, let's play tea, dear. And holding the lid as she pours for the kid, it's gonna be better for you. Oh, Mama says so, and Papa said no, and Grandma said life isn't easy. And stroking her head, she tells the kid they don't mean it, it's only the booze. She covers her ears and hides in her bed, says she'll keep quiet if you don't make me dead. And it doesn't get better before it gets worse. She retreats to a world in her head. It's a bloody Mary, it's a blood of sin, it's bloody on bloody all over again. Like caught on the side where the waters run high, and it's filthy and stinking with dread. Oh, what does it mean to be part of a dream that's a nightmare most of the time? And why do you say that it's only a phase? Are you confusing your life with mine? And Father has spoken, you bitches, you broke it. You're why we get half caught and tied. And some learn to fight, and some take to flight, and some pray to Jesus with all of their might. Oh, Mama said so, Papa said no, and Grandma said, come, let's bake tea, dear. And holding the lid as she pours for the kid, they don't mean it, it's only the booze. Oh, Mama said so, and Papa said no, and Grandma said life isn't easy. And stroking her head, she tells the kid, it's gonna be better for you. Oh, Mama said so, and Papa said so, and Grandma said love isn't painless. And holding her neck, she said, tells the kid, I just can't accept you for you. Oh, Mama said so. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Ba ba ba, da 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 da. Da 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 da. Mama, Papa, da 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 da. Da 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 da. Remember, Jesus was a bastard too. Remember, where would Christianity be if Jesus had been taken and given up and taken for adoption? The message there for me and other adoptees is that Joseph was a really cool guy because he stuck with Mary and was willing to raise someone else's little bastard. I mean, this Christianity and the liturgy apart. Okay, so go to adoptee Twitter, go to the adoptee rights movement, and stop thinking it's mythologizing it as this great win-win situation. It's a loss. Infertility is a loss. Mothers losing babies at birth is a loss. And we lose our whole families and are made orphans. When people talk about losing their culture, I didn't lose my culture. I lost the transmitters of my culture. Culture in context, in a place where you're standing in a river of life. It makes it hard to move on. It's an existential nightmare. However, somebody did light me up, and I thought, well, this is her thinking. If this really incredible woman can have the hots for me, I must be okay. And I wrote her this song. Love is a burden. It'll bring you to your knees. And if you choose to bear it, you better follow where it leads. 'Cause it doesn't matter what you want or think you need. Love is like a hand held tight. It'll squeeze you till you bleed. And love isn't stupid, but it'll make you act a fool. It can lift you up and toss you and pierce you through and through. Love can leave you hanging, hook embedded in your chest. only child. It'll never let you rest. And love isn't lonely. It's got all kinds of friends. Some will leave you early. Some will stay until the end. Love can be a lighthouse, a shelter, or a storm. Love can be forever, uncertain or for sure. And if you get a chance, my friend, oh, take it while you can. Not everyone can hear the call, not everyone's so blessed. Love isn't easy. It can sink you like a stone. It's got every feeling in it, every shade and every tone. It can pick you up and throw you like a dog gets thrown a bone. It can crack you so wide open that you may never close. And if it's love unanswered, impossible or scorned, think upon that moment when the fire began to glow. Thank your lucky stars above, you felt it rise and fall. There are so many wounded souls afraid to feel at all. Your love is a burden. It can bring you to your knees. Thank you. And you can probably figure out where that relationship ended to get that song, eh? Thank you. And we have to keep up the good fight. And don't try to save the world if you haven't saved yourself. Step back a little bit.
Thank you so much, Mama D. All right.
Am I
Yes.
supposed to do another song or something? What's?
Oh no, we're good to go.
How come I'm not hearing him?
All right. Thank you again, DM, for the stories, the music. It was all wonderful.
Down there, folks.
Oh, okay.
Up next, we have our auction, hosted by some wonderful volunteers from the Surge organization. So let's give it up for Leanne and Johan.
Hi there, folks. I'm not sure if my video is pinned, but I will start anyway. I'm not sure if you meant fundraising. I don't have any products. It's not an auction, but yeah. Hey everyone, my name is Johan. and I am a white settler here in Toronto, though I was born in Montreal, known as Chochage in Ganyan-Gahaga. I want to thank all of our speakers, performers, and hosts. Tonight has been really special. We were kind of plugged to do the fundraising portion of this webinar, and I'm truly just I felt very honored to be plugged for that. And now that I'm here, I certainly am just so glad that I didn't miss this. This was really great. So I'm joining everyone today from Toronto. And on this land, I am guided by my responsibilities under the two-row Wampum Belt Covenant. So I want to acknowledge the stewards of this land, the Mississaugas of the Credit, Chippewa, the Anishinaabe, the Wendat, and the Haudenosaunee people, and the strong urban Indigenous community here in Toronto today.
Hi, everyone. My name is Leanne. I'm also a white settler living in Toronto. I'm here today as a member of Showing Up for Racial Justice, or SURGE. SURGE Toronto believes that no one is free until everyone is free, and focuses on organizing white people to show up in solidarity and join movements for justice led by Black, Indigenous, and racialized organizers and communities. I'll drop a link to SURGE in the chat. Today, we are joining you to collectively redistribute some resources in order to support the Wet'suwet'en land defenders. We'll talk about why resource redistribution matters, but for a bit of context off the top, we're raising funds today to donate directly to the Gidmit'en checkpoint. The money maintains the site and efforts to protect the reclaimed traditional territories, as well as to the various legal funds in place to support Indigenous land defenders who have been targeted by the police and the RCMP.
Sometimes thinking or talking about money can feel like a distraction from the real work, or can bring up feelings of shame, guilt, scarcity, fear. But we're going to talk about money anyway. As Sarah said in her last poem, change doesn't happen in rooms of comfort. So if the discussion of money and of resourcing these movements feels a little uncomfortable, let's just sit in that together and try and push through. For settlers, our access to accumulated wealth, resources, and land is directly tied to colonial violence, land theft, and systemic racism against Indigenous people. Whether through active land theft, resource extraction, or environmental racism, our tax dollars as Canadians go directly to these systems that keep colonialism in place. When we talk about Indigenous resistance and resurgence, these conversations cannot be separated from tangible discussions of resource redistribution. So today, we have the opportunity to take collective action to resist these systems and demand justice for those who have stewarded this land long before myself or my family arrived here. One of the ways to shift this power imbalance is for settlers to divest our power and accumulated wealth. So perhaps you're like me and you don't own any land to give back. That's okay. Through resource redistribution, we can all take part in ensuring that Wet'suwet'en has sovereign, protected lands and forests both today and for generations to come. By resourcing this community, we support the autonomy of Wet'suwet'en to protect land and life.
So today we move money to Wet'suwet'en as an act of solidarity. We do it to redistribute wealth and resources that have been concentrated and consolidated through centuries of exploiting, stealing, looting, and stockpiling from Black, Indigenous, and racialized communities. This is not charity and it is not philanthropy. It is about mutual aid, collective vision, and the possibilities that emerge when grassroots community power is built to get us all free.
So we're all here today because we want to combat the material impacts of white supremacy, racism, and colonialism in big systemic ways, but also in people's everyday lives. So I'm asking everyone on this call, all of us who've gathered on a Tuesday evening to take part in this action, to just take a moment and think about what resources you might have right now, right? Maybe you have a steady income and you've been able to maintain your job through COVID. I'm guessing that there's probably some educators, tradespeople, maybe even lawyers in the room. Maybe you have more than enough to pay your rent, buy groceries, and then you have some money left over at the end of the month. Maybe you buy a coffee on your way to work each morning. Maybe you have access to an inheritance or family money. I'm very privileged to be in that position myself and will be redistributing a part of my inheritance this evening. And maybe you have none of that. but you're very resourceful. We know that people with lower incomes actually donate higher percentages of their incomes than people who make over $100,000 a year. So let's take a moment to think about it and consider what you can bring to this movement. At Surge, we ask people to lean into our feelings of discomfort, like I mentioned earlier, because we know that systems of money accumulation and the feelings that go with them are part and parcel of colonial white supremacist systems. Particularly for settlers on the call, think about what would be a stretch for you. What amount of money would make you feel uncomfortable to part with so that it actually feels like you're giving something up? That number is going to be different for everyone. For some, it could be $2,000. For others, it might be 200. And for some, it could be $5. There's no shame in what amount you can contribute. And every single one of those stretches is important and valuable. It's not a measure of your commitment. Even if you can't donate today, you can help by spreading the word to family, friends, coworkers. But take that time to figure out what your stretch point is. And that's what we're asking, calling on you to commit to today.
We don't know the background of everyone here today, but we do know that we can all support the community of Wet'suwet'en as they take risks to fight for justice. There is no expectation around what you give, and all contributions are appreciated and celebrated. What makes this action most powerful is that it is collective, and the power comes from each of us stretching ourselves and then pooling our resources together. It is such an opportunity to resource the amazing work happening in Wet'suwet'en. And I believe that with the crowd we have here this evening, we can collectively move some big money. So let's see how much we can raise. I'm going to share a link in the chat, and I'll also throw up a slide. So we'll just ask everyone to head to that site, to menti.com. And then you can use this code to join us.
So we'll give everybody a little time to do that. I personally find I've done this a few times, and I'm trying to get Menti in my brain, and it's not that easy. But hopefully everyone has an easy time with it. So this is how it's going to work. We're going to use Mentimeter, and we're sharing that info in the chat right now. It's all up on the screen. So we're going to give you a minute to open that up, either on another device or in another window. So Mentimeter is effectively just a poll that's going to allow us to track how many folks are collectively pledging today. So I'll give a little time for that. Cool. Yeah, so through the Mentimeter poll, we're going to ask each of you to make a pledge for your stretch amount. We'll call out a number and ask if anyone is able to commit to donate that amount to support the checkpoint. If that number is your stretch, you click yes on Mentimeter and then you submit it. If it's not your number, just click refresh when the next number is announced, right? So if we're at 200, that's not your number, we go down to 100, you're like, yes, just refresh the page and the new number will pop up. You can click yes and submit. And that's going to allow us to track sort of where those donations are sitting and how much people are, or where those pledges are sitting rather. It's important to note that Mentimeter is not collecting any money from you. It's just to visualize and see how much people are pledging to donate. The actual information for how to donate we'll share at the end. And after each number is announced, we're going to show you on screen how many people contributed. It's really exciting and powerful to see those numbers adding up. And if our benchmarks that we've set skip your exact stretch, don't worry about it. Just pledge the next closest amount and then donate what you can. Like I said, like you're not actually donating anything in the Mentimeter. So if you think, okay, I can do $75 and the closest thing is 100, click 100. It just gives us a sense of where people are at. You're not going to be held to that number afterwards. At the end of the meeting tonight, we're going to tally up people's numbers and let you all know how much we pledged collectively. And we'll follow up with a link, like I said, of where and how you can actually follow through with that commitment.
Okay, so we will do a test question so everyone can get familiar with the Mentimeter. This is a little bit different than the other ones because you should have the option to type something in. The other ones, you'll just click yes. But if anyone can share why they are excited to move some money to What's Wettin' today, then we can just have a look at that. Okay, great. We have some good answers coming in here. Land back and redistributive justice. Can't wait to be on the ground, want to support, hope this helps. Oh, these are great answers. Excellent. This is exciting. All right, I'm hyped. Let's get started. There's still some more coming in, but let's get started with the exciting stuff.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to start big and really bold and ask if anyone today is willing to start with a pledge of $5,000. Maybe you're getting a big tax return this year. Maybe your property has increased in value. So might this be the number for you? Usually not a lot of takes on the 5,000.
Yeah. It's definitely a huge ask, but you never know what people's financial situation is. And yeah, so we'll move down to 2,000 now. Like I said, I think, you know, I'll just speak for myself. Like, that is a huge amount of money. I'm, you know, about to be a student again. I live in Toronto, so, and I pay rent here. So $2,000 is like 2 months of rent. But for someone, potentially homeowners, landowners, $2,000, if you're able to spare that, it's going to some really, really important work. So we'll just hold at this slide for a little bit, and then we'll move down to our next goal. All good. I think we can move ahead, Leanne.
All right, let's go down to 1,000. Is anyone feeling like 1,000 is possibly within their reach today, this year, to support the great work that's happening out there? All right, let's move on to,
let's hit 500.
500. How are we feeling about 500? Oh, we've got one.
Two at 500. That's amazing, folks. Seriously. Thank 3. Okay, let's leave it here for a little bit. Let's leave it here.
Wow,
4.
this
That's
is amazing.
Thank you so much, folks. Seriously, that's so generous, and truly will go such a long way to supporting this work. Let's keep it up here for just a little longer. Maybe we can get to 5 people at 500. Again, if 500 isn't quite the amount that you wanted to donate, but you're like, okay, I can do 400 or 300, just submit for the closest one. But honestly, 4 at 500 is amazing. Thank you guys so much. Let's move on to the $250 slide. All
right. How many people can contribute $250 this evening? I'm still feeling so great about that.
Yeah, the 500 was amazing.
4 at 500 is amazing.
I know we're a small group this evening. Amazing. We got one person at $250. Thank you so much. Yeah, just to say, I recognize that we're a small group. Sometimes when we're fundraising, we've got like hundreds of people in here. But it's truly so amazing that we've already, you know, got $2,500 pledged. Truly, the support is unreal. Let's see if we can get one more. If anyone's able to stretch, hit $250.
All right, the next one will be 100.
Amazing. Yeah.
I'm feeling pretty good about this 100.
Yeah.
How many people willing to contribute $100?
Amazing. We already got 1, 2. I'm also realizing my chair is very squeaky, so I'm sorry to everyone on the call for that. 5 people at $100.
And remember, every single dollar goes directly to help all the people who are doing the great work on the ground. So this is all direct money for them. This is amazing.
This is supporting people at the checkpoint, as well as the legal defense funds that are up for for folks. So truly, all this money is going to such an important cause. We have 6 people at $100. I'm going to try on each of these. I'm going to try. Let's just do one more. If we can get to 7, that'd be amazing. But we're moving down to 50 in just a sec. So if that's the amount that you wanted to pledge, we're about to get there. 6 at $100 is great. Thank you so much, guys.
Great. Okay, let's go down to 50.
Awesome.
We're jumping
Oh wow!
fast.
Whoa,
Oh.
it's jumping.
I like that. It's amazing. 5 people. Thank you.
Yeah, we're
so
already
much.
at $250 just on the $50 level. I was trying to keep track of the total, and that went out the window quickly.
Don't worry, I got it. I got
it. Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much to everybody who's donating at 50.
This is
if we
great.
can get a couple more, I'm always going to try and push it a little bit. Just so everyone knows, we're going to be, I think our smallest donation or pledge level will be at $5, just so you can kind of get a sense of where you're at if you're still considering how much you want to donate. 5 at $50 is amazing. Let's move on to 25.
Do it.
How many people would like to pledge $25? Awesome.
That's great. Got 2. Looking good. We got the 25, the 10, and the 5.
I'm seeing, just quickly, I just want to address in the Q&A, Adonica, apologies if I'm mispronouncing your name. So these pledges, like I said, like they won't follow up with you through Mentimeter, but we're going to drop in the chat basically a bunch of links of ways that you can support the Yinta Access Fund. There's a donation page, there's an e-transfer page, you can do it via PayPal. So we're going to drop that at the end, and basically you can donate that way, but you won't actually be donating through Mentimeter.
Yeah, this is just to track and get people excited, and I'm getting pretty excited. All right, we got 2 more. $10. Anyone want to give $10 this evening? Your second last chance for tonight. This is amazing. Even $10 is so amazing. Anything, any dollar that you're willing to share is dollar out of your pocket and going to help. So it's all really, really appreciated.
Truly, it's going to like directly to support, which is just a great feeling. Like, that there's no excess fees or anything. It's just going straight to the folks at the checkpoint. So thank you. Let's see if we can get to a round number. If we can get one more. 50 even. But if not, all good. We're going to move down to that $5 level.
Last one.
And then we're going to wrap it up. Amazing.
Anyone able to donate $5 tonight? Amazing.
Thank you so much. Like, honestly, I'm kind of astounded by the amount that's being, or just the amount of pledges being made. I think at this point there's 34 of us in the room, and it's truly incredible. Like, these are numbers that we'd be hitting with double or even like triple that many people here. So yeah, thank you all so much for your generosity. We'll keep it at the $5 pledge amount for a couple more seconds before we wrap it up. And then Leanne, I think are you gonna crunch all those numbers?
I got it. I did my Excel just like I said I would.
Okay, great. Okay, so we'll call it here. Thank you so much to everyone who donated at every, or who pledged at every level. It's truly it's such important work that's being done. And as much as we can resource it, as much as we can, spread the word, all of that is important, right? And donating is definitely a huge part of it, but truly just being here tonight, sharing and getting people out is so important. So yeah, we're going to post the details right now of how you can complete your donation in the chat. And it's also going to be circulated in a follow-up email from the organizers. So no worries if tonight you couldn't pledge or you can't donate tonight. You're going to get that information in your email, and you can do it whenever you like. You can donate by e-transfer or by a check in the mail. So all of that is super accessible. Yeah, don't forget to follow through with your pledge, and yeah, let's all just show up for Wet'suwet'en. Thank you so much to the organizers for having us here, and yeah, have a great night, everyone.
And I just did some quick math, and in the short time together, we pledged to donate $3,705. That
That's
is
so dope.
incredible. Yeah, that's more than $100 per person that's here. And I just want to say that is so amazing. It feels so great to have done that with all of you. Thank you all so, so much for your support towards the land defenders fighting for sovereignty. I did just also want to quickly mention that on that Yinta Access site, I don't know if it's changed, but when I was on earlier, the donate through the website wasn't live. That may change, but if it is still deactivated, please just make your transfer by the other means that are mentioned there, the Gmail, the PayPal, and your money will get there. Thank you so, so, so much, everyone, tonight.
Thanks, everyone.
Yes, I want to once again thank our wonderful Surge volunteers, Leanne and Johan, for helping us support the Get 'Em Checkpoint, Solidarity Line, Legal Fund, and Indigenous land sovereignty as a whole. Thank you so very, very much for the help and the energy that you brought to this. And it's amazing. We raised almost $4,000 together here in this one event, and it's just an amazing, wonderful, wonderful feeling. Thank you, everyone, but specifically, thank you, Serge, for the help and the energy that you're bringing. It was amazing. So closing us out for the evening, we have one final performance from award-winning Six Nations musician and songwriter, Logan Stats.
Hello. Say I go. It's gonna go again. Logan Stats, Young Yets. I know I want to get the Dolden. You will go up in Jordan. Suedo need to Suedo. How's everybody doing out there? So my name's Logan Stats. I'm gonna play you guys a couple songs. I wrote this song in the hotel room after I was arrested. Camouflage, I rolled a cigarette. Sweet taste of freedom, my love on bread. You were playing songs on that hotel bed. You were trying on if it's so dead. We were coming, we were going. Love running from the Lord. You locked me up tomorrow morning. I know you love me when I'm going. Take me back to the river, honey. Take me back to where they never take your loving from me. Take me back to the river, honey. Take me back to where they never take your loving from me. They can never take your loving from me, no. They won't ever take your loving from me. I get your mugshot in my window. The only photo that I got. Well, you ain't hiding, you ain't shy. You can see your crooked smile. Every rebel that's inside you. As we were coming, we were going. The love running from the Lord. They can lock me up my role model. I know you love me, and I know. Take me back to the take me back to where they never take your loving from me. Take me back to the river. Take me back to where they never take your loving from me. They can't ever take your loving from me. They won't ever take your loving from me. 'Cause we were coming, we were going. The love's been running from the Lord. They can lock me up tomorrow morning. I know you love me. I know it. Yeah, we'll go up. Yeah, we'll go up. Found a little lover down in Landback Lane. It's like trying to build a fire in a pouring rain. I kept it on the color. I could feed that flame. When I finally recover, I can love again. See, we got our mother's bone. We're made up of sticks and stone. And the steel will rust, and the concrete cracks, and the walls will all fall down. But my love and trust is firmly rooted deep within the ground. It's the story of the warrior. Ain't love to feel sorry for. It's the story of the warrior. True love is Victoria. Baby, you're not just kissing me. We're making history. Baby, you're not just kissing me. I said we're making history. Found a little lover down in Landback Lane. Had to tell my other lover I just don't feel the same. Oh, when you're loving undercover, you can feel so ashamed. But if you give it to another, you can break that chain. See, we got our mother's bone. We're made up of sticks and stone. And the steel will rust, and the concrete cracks, and walls will all fall down. But my love and trust is firmly rooted deeper than the ground. It's the story of a warrior. Ain't love to feel sorry for. It's the story of a warrior. True love is Victoria. Baby, you're not just kissing me. We're out here making history. Baby, you're not just kissing me. I said we're making history. See, we got our mother's bone. We're made up of sticks and stone. Yeah, we'll go we'll go. Thank you very much. Meow, we'll go. So when I say that after every song, I'm saying thank you, Big and Mohawk, and it's kind of like my Elvis Presley Mohawk moment. Like thank you very much. Play you guys one more song. I want to thank everybody, for being here and supporting, what's going on right now on the territory. It's like, as we are all sitting here doing this Zoom, these machines are moving closer to the river, so right now it's just a crucial time to just contribute in any way that you can. I'm a singer-songwriter. That's my gift from Creator, but every single one of you guys out there has your own gift from Creator. And it's just time to take that gift and direct it towards the front line, So now we'll go for having me here. I'll play you guys one more song. There ain't no reason things are this way. It's how they always been. They intend to stay. Yeah, I can't explain why we live this way. Do it every day. The preacher's on the podium and they're speaking the same. Robert's on the sidewalk and they're begging for change. The old lady's laughing from the fire escapes. They're cursing my name. I got a basket full of lemons and they all taste the same. We don't want a pigeon with a broken wing. You can spend your whole life working for something just to have it taken away. And people walk around pushing back their debts, wearing paychecks like necklaces and bracelets. They're talking about nothing, they're not worried about death. With every little heartbeat and every little breath, and people walk the tightrope on a razor's edge, carrying their hurt, their hatred, and their weapon. It could be a bomb, it could be a bullet or a pen, thought or a word or a sentence. There ain't no reason that things this way. It's how they always been, and then time to say, I can't explain why we live this way. Hell, we do it every day. Love will come set us free. Now I know and I hope love will come set us free. And I know and I hope that it will, goddamn, one day. The prison walls, they're still standing tall. Some things, they never change at all. You keep on building prisons, we're gonna fill them all. You keep on building bombs, we're gonna drop them all. And working your fingers bare to the bone. And breaking your back, make you sell your goddamn soul. Like a long net filled with coal, suffocating slow. The wind blows wild and I may move. Politicians lie and I'm not fooled. You don't need no reason or a three-piece suit just to argue the truth. The word under my skin, the air under my toes. Slavery is stitched into the fabric of my clothes. Chaos and commotion wherever I go. But love I try to follow. It's love will come set us free. Now I know will one day. Love will come set us free. And I know and I hope that it will, goddamn. Ain't no reason that things this way. Should I always they tend to stay. I can't explain why we live this way. We still do it every day. Well, yeah, we'll go, guys. Thanks for having me. And, if there's ever any way that I can, support, the Yinta or whatever is happening, among First Nations communities, feel free to reach out to me on Instagram, email me. We all got to kind of work together, and now is a crucial time. And with everything that's going on in the world, we kind of have this opportunity to plant our foot together and make some real change. So I just urge you, take whatever you got, whatever kind of energy you have, and direct that towards this fight right now. Nyawago, Onaguahi, Gonalonkwa.
Yes. Thank you so much, Logan Miigwech, for that wonderful, wonderful performance. And just another thank you to all of our performers, volunteers, and speakers for the evening who have given their time and energy and creative work towards making this event so absolutely wonderful. Thank you all, Miigwech. And to all of you coming in and showing your support, thank you as well for Wet'suwet'en and your contributions toward the Get'em Checkpoint Legal Fund. On behalf of the entire team, I would like to convey our appreciation for all of you attending this event and supporting the fight for justice and land sovereignty. It's a necessary battle and one that we are willfully being moved away from by governing structures and media. So thank you all for coming and supporting us tonight, Miigwech. Without all of you, this event just could not have been possible. So again, thank you. Have a wonderful